This is ZYGER Fit. We are fitness for mind. We roar together. Oxana Weber.
So happy to be here.
Oxana, welcome.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here. I want you to start talking about what you do and who you are, please.
So I am a yoga teacher.
Yoga teacher.
Yes.
Man.
And an Ayurvedic diet and lifestyle consultant is two things that I'm qualified in. And I am conscious lifestyle, conscious living educator and advocate.
Awesome. That sounds, when you say that you are a yoga teacher, it just like I'm sorry, and don't take it wrong, okay? Like a picture came to my mind. The picture that you sent me. One of your legs were somewhere else that I can't describe, while the other one was holding on the floor, holding everything else. Like, is that one of the things that you teach at yoga?
It is at some of the classes, yes.
Right, all right. So how would you call that?
Sorry?
How would you call that position?
So that would be a variation of a tree pose.
Okay, a tree pose variation, is it? Oh wow. Okay. Anything else that you are proud to teach as a yoga teacher?
I think the main thing that I teach as a yoga teacher, and what I always say, is that yoga is not a discipline. It's not a practice for the body.
Yeah.
Even though in the West, that's how we see it, that's how it's marketed and advertised, and that's what most people believe, it really isn't. And the reason why we make those movements with the body and we stretch is that we could bring a positive effect or a different effect into the mind, and to clear the energy in the body itself. So that's what happens when we move the body in that way. And when we move the body at the same time, when we do yoga, we also could not help but bring awareness to breath.
All right.
And breath is life.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of the time, actually I would even go as far as to say majority of the time, we're not even aware of the fact that we're breathing. When you are in a yoga class and you're there for an hour, or if you're at home and you're doing your yoga practice, you could not help but breathe, because you're gonna have to hold your pose for a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of breaths. What happens at that point, your breath becomes deeper. You're deepening your breath into the body, and that brings so many improvements, immediate improvements.
It is so important that you mentioning that it brings a lot of benefits, and one of the benefits is related to the health part of we being humans, you know what I mean? And even deepening a bit more in what you're saying, you're mentioning, it helps us to be conscious with our breath or with our breathing patterns.
Yes.
And I completely agree with you, because when you are doing yoga, you actually take the time to think, oh, I'm breathing. You know what I mean? Because sometimes telling a human being you're breathing or you're able to breathe is like telling a fish, oh, you are in the water. Water? Which water? You know what I mean? They may in our point of view, maybe they don't realize, like we don't realize that we are breathing, because it happens automatically. Our body has developed the power to power up our breathing patterns normally and naturally. However, the same pattern can be sometimes ignored because it just happens naturally. But the reality is that breathing gives you power, because air is have all these particles that interact with our body and kind of recharge the battery, basically. It gives us oxygen, which is necessary everywhere in our body. To any organ to function has to have blood that pumps the oxygen.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it is very important, and I am really amazed that you are mentioning that through breathing,
Well, the first things that I teach in all of the classes when people first come to me, and actually in every class that I teach, the first thing that we do and how we start is by connecting to our breath, and it's usually breathing into the belly. deep abdominal breathing.
Awesome.
And what that does, it straight away activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It balances your body, it balances your mind. And with that, it brings other improvements, mental health improvements, physical improvements as well.
Because if your mind is on set, is good, has a positive habit, you know what I mean? It's just gonna transmit on your body as well. It's a circle, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that starting your practice with conscious awareness of the breath for a certain amount of time, what it does, it allows you to go inside. Yeah. Because a lot of the time we go through the day, especially now, you know, it's Christmas, everything is busy, we're so externalized, you know, and we begin to associate ourselves and what we are and who we are with external world, with what people say to us, how we react to people. We completely forget that, you know, behind everything that we see on the outside is the person on the inside, and we just... So stopping like this for a moment, whether you're doing you're starting your yoga practice or practicing generally, or just throughout the day remembering to bring awareness back to the breath, could bring you back to yourself and putting things into perspective. You know, about what really is
what's
important. What's important in your life.
What's important, and that's a big question. That's a big question that at least 3 or 4 times it's been asked by human, you know what I mean? We all ask what's important, what's my history, or what's my story, what am I gonna do, what's so important for me to be in this earth. At least I have asked the same question many times actually, and I'm sure that many of us and like, have you ever like taken 5 minutes? Well, I imagine you have, because you are a yoga instructor, but I'm just saying it as an example for our listeners, right? Have you ever been so quiet that your mind start wondering, what's the purpose of me being here? And I can see yoga being one of those catalyzers, one of those initiators of this thought, and at the same time I see it as one of those type of exercise, type of activities that as well enhance the purpose of the people, you know what I mean? Like help people to find out the real reason as to why they are here.
You know, absolutely. And I mean, yoga has been life-changing for me. Starting to seriously practice yoga on a daily basis, you know, has been transformational and actually instrumental in where I am right now and where I think, you know, where I'm heading.
Yeah. How many minutes? I mean, you said that you practice yoga every day, daily, right?
Yeah.
For how long?
So at the moment my practice is about 1.5 hours. And
goodness.
I do specific...
This is not for a newbie, is it?
Well, actually, when I first started practicing daily, and when I started my yoga teacher training back in 2015, I was practicing for 3.5 hours a day.
3.5 hours a day. Well, what do you suggest to a newbie like me? What would you suggest to a person who wants to initiate yoga practice?
You do not, of course, you know, if you just starting out, and I did not start out initially, you know, I'm talking about being in a teacher training, but initially this is not how I started out. You know, my journey was like everybody's journey, you know, but actually it's interesting because initially I was introduced to yoga when I was 16, back in the 90s. And that was just a philosophy of yoga, and it's just really resonated with me. It had this huge impact on me straight away. And then somehow I just had this intuitive feeling that yes, I really want to practice it and I really want to go into it, but I don't think I can, because I just felt it would require a lot of discipline, self-discipline, and giving up a lot of things. And I was
Your
16
imposter
at the time.
syndrome there kicking in. Like, you can't do this.
No,
maybe
exactly.
leave it for another day, but in reality you could have.
Well, I don't know, because I think I needed life experience, and I intuitively knew that it wasn't the right time. I knew that I would come to it at one point in my life, but at that particular time, I needed the life experience. And I know now why I felt that way. At the time, it felt like, all kind of things came out into my head. But now, looking back, I understand because of the life experience that I've had since then.
So you think it was the right child to put a pause on it and then come back to it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when I go back to it, I was then in my 20s, and I've started practicing on and off physical practice. So, I would do it for a period of time just to get physical benefits. But of course, even if you start just doing asana, which is the physical part of yoga, a tiny little bit of what yoga is, you will still benefit mentally from it, and emotionally, of course, as well. So I was doing that and then giving up and not practicing, and then going back to it again. And until actually I went on a foundation course in 2014, yoga foundation course, and that's when I began to develop a daily practice. And it started with just half an hour a day, perhaps, and that's what I would recommend to people. Just getting that consistency and discipline, and that's one thing that I'm working with and on right now is discipline and self-discipline, and realizing how many of us don't actually have it, myself included in that, because in some things I'm really disciplined, but in other things perhaps I'm not so disciplined. And especially in yoga, just going back to yoga again, developing discipline is one of the most important things, and that's what's gonna make you feel good, because if you consistently go back, you don't have to sit on your mat, you don't have to go into super complicated poses, but if you just sit or in whatever position, on a chair, on a sofa, doesn't have to be in a lotus pose on your yoga mat, but if you just take that time to sit down and create space to be quiet, and it will happen, the magic will happen. And of course it isn't about adding anything onto anything, it's about taking away. So it's allowing everything that is there from external reality that is on your mind to drop off.
It is really interesting the way you say it. It's not about taking it, but allowing things to continue the transcourse, or to flow, to continue the flow of its nature. As in, do you know what happened? That sometimes we are so caught up on the situations that we are going through that sometimes we forget that we just have to drop it off. Drop it so that it continues the natural flow, and it just goes off your mind, because we catch things and we retain things when we start to focus on the negativity of the situation, on the effect that has caused on you, and instead just accept it, acknowledge that has happened, but just allow it to continue the flow and drop off, as you said before.
I think the problem is when when we are that externalized, and we begin to associate ourselves with something else. I'm a mother.
Labels.
I'm a mother. I'm an office worker or an admin worker. I'm a business owner. I'm this. I'm a woman. I'm this. I'm that. All of those things could sort of come into equation here, and we forget who we really are. We really do. We forget, and you're not going to be able to remember unless you purposely create space, for yourself to drop into that space of remembering.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just not going to happen, because it's just too much noise, too much noise all the time, and you have to purposely block out the noise. And you could only do it by sitting down and purposely doing it. But again, doing it I really truly think doing it just here and there, it's okay, it's going to make you feel better, but if you want to have permanent changes in the ways that you perceive reality in yourself, this has to be a consistent daily practice, and this is what I teach. This is my passion.
It has to be organized and consistent. It's really nice that you're talking about that, because a couple of days ago I delivered a workshop for a couple of clients that was all about how to develop consistency. And I was telling them that you could have any kingdom, you could have anything, but if you don't have consistency, you will end up losing whatever you have, because everything that you could imagine or everything that you are doing at this very moment, and any dream that you have in your mind, is all about consistency. It's not about what resources you have, which tools you have. Obviously, if you need something, for example, if you want to be a doctor, you need to study, right? So if you need to do something, do it, but you have to do these exercises, these things towards your dream with a constant activity, with a constant schedule. Despite and regardless of the situation, you have to call yourself to accountability.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And do it.
Yes.
As well, I wanted to ask you, Oxana, because what would you suggest to a person that is starting on trying yoga, right? Because I know you teach yoga, and I want you to as well give your handles and your links so that people can find you on internet, right? But I thought, like, if you give one tip first and then you say your handles and the links where people can find you, that'll be great.
So one tip on starting?
Yeah, how to start. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think it's really important when you decide that you want to develop a practice, perhaps in the morning. I think first thing you decide on how long you want this to be and what time you're going to start. It doesn't have to be in the morning, it could be in the evening. I would highly recommend having a morning practice. Okay. So say you only have 10 minutes in the morning. And why morning? Morning is because, it's kind of a way to set yourself for the day.
Definitely.
To kind of set that motivation, that intention for the day, and it will help you do that.
Yeah.
So, and the other things that really help me, and it helps a lot of people that I work with, is creating this atmosphere, making your environment kind of suits the purpose of your practice. So for example, what I usually do, how I start my practice, is I'll have an altar, I have a place that I practice in front of, and it will have some things that, a few things that are important to me. Maybe it will be, a picture of, a teacher that I really admire, that when I connect to that person, I really feel inspired and uplifted. It could be,
it's all about mindset and focus.
It is. So you get your mind into that space. The other things that I do is incense. So I would, just to create that atmosphere. So that could really help somebody to kind of set themselves up. Okay, this is what I'm doing. And also actually a journal. Journaling is very good. So if you really want to develop a consistent practice, have a journal. And first thing you do, journal the times that you're going to, the date and the time you're starting. And, and then sit down, do your practice, plan it, say, okay, for 5 minutes, I'm going to do some stretches, and a lot of people I know, they practice to YouTube videos and things like this. And it can be a little bit difficult to move away from that to actually doing it yourself, because you think, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not a yoga teacher. I don't know how I'm going to put the practice together. But it could just be something intuitive. I woke up in the morning, I feel a bit stiff. And you just listen to that, you stop, you drop into it, and what does my body need? And you just move, with the ways, with how it feels best for your body. And then say, okay, so for 5-10 minutes I'm going to do the movement, and then I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes. and that could be it. And then you record it in your journal after you finished, and that could be it. That could be your practice. But the most important thing, set the atmosphere around it. You know, have your altar, have something that's important to you, have that incense or Palo Santo or whatever. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's a good advice if you are starting into yoga. First of all, mindset, right? And have your place, your special place.
Yes.
In this case, an altar, right? It's a special place, basically.
It is, yeah.
And you don't have to have a mat. No. You know.
Absolutely not. You do not have. You don't have to wear special clothes. You know, super expensive,
really white
leggings.
You know,
nothing like that. No.
You just have to be you, be present, and you know, put something in front of you that will cause your mind to wander in a positive way, I will say. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And if there is nothing there that you wanna use as a tool, you know, as a gadget to help you to get to the place that you want to be, then don't use anything, but be present.
Exactly.
And apart from that, Oxana, can you share with our audience your handles, your link? How can people contact you?
Okay, so my website is my name and surname, so it's www.oxanaweber.com. That's OXANAWEBER.com. My Instagram, which I use mostly for my social media, is I am Oxana Weber, and it's the same for my Facebook as well. And these are the social media platforms that I mostly use.
Awesome. Oxana, which platform are you more active on?
Instagram, and that's I am Oxana Weber. Yeah.
So it is at Oxana Weber.
I am Oxana Weber.
Oh, I am Oxana. Yeah. I don't know why I'm asking.
But if you put Oxana Weber, I'm sure you'll find me.
And Oxana is Oxana. So it's with an X, sorry, with an X.
With an X.
Yeah, so I am Oxana Weber. So it is Oxana, Oxana.
Oxana, let me help you. Weber, 1B.
Sorry, I just got C on English, okay?
No, you did well.
I'm just kidding. I just wanted to make it like really clear, you know what I mean? We got there.
We roar together.